Hey guys, it's your boy Wolf here. I told you guys I would come back with some year-end reviews, and I'm going to get one right off the bat, and I'm going to start doing a review of WWE. It's not going to be an all-inclusive one. It's just kind of going to be my thoughts on what I feel maybe WWE's trying to do, the execution, fan reception, and a couple other things. I'm trying to avoid the hot topics. I feel like those have been, done to death, ticket prices and all that. Um, it's just beating the dead horse, and I don't really have any other opinions than what people have said. Obviously, ticket prices are too high, and it's showing now in the attendance. But that's all I got to say about that. Before that, I want to talk about Buffalo Championship Wrestling. We're a week away now from the Lumber City Rumble, a match where chaos reigns for a single opportunity. I've been trying to get myself into that match. So far, I haven't heard anything back. I'm not necessarily a full-time wrestler. I'm not someone who, you know, can do triple somersaults and 450s. I get it. I don't look like an athlete. I don't have abs. I'm not muscular. But it's just one of those things where a Rumble match is the match where anybody and anyone could potentially win. It's just if they're given the number, they're given that opportunity, they go in and they have a chance to win and make the biggest win of their lives, because you get to main event the biggest match of the year or biggest show of the year with Wrestle Sunday. And so, I'm going to keep fighting this entire week to get involved in that match somehow. I don't care what number they give me. They can give me number one. I don't care. I just want the chance. I want a chance to prove myself. And I think that's one thing that I haven't really gotten in the 20 years of Buffalo Championship Wrestling. There's only two pillars of BCW left, and one of them's myself, and the other one's Troy Buchanan. And I don't know why, but for 20 years he's been on this warpath to try to say and try to prove that I don't deserve any opportunities, that I don't belong in professional wrestling. He's constantly saying he's up here and I'm down there, not even in the screen. And you guys have all started believing him. Everyone's told me like, "Oh, you're great," but they don't remember my name. They don't know who I am. So it's just one of those things where it's starting to really wear on me. I broke my ankle for this company. I tore every ligament in my knee for this company. I had a doctor put a titanium bolt in my knee just so I can come back to Buffalo Championship Wrestling. And it just feels like it's gone unnoticed. It's gone wasted. And, I'm 40 years old now. My body's pretty broken down. Um, but both my knees are bad. My ankle, obviously, when I told you I broke it, here's the thing about when I broke my ankle. And it's a little sidebar, but I feel like it shows the dedication that I have for Buffalo Championship Wrestling. We were in Canandaigua, New York, training with the Ring Crew Express. Mean Marcos, not Kevin. I don't remember if Kevin Dunn was there, but Mean Marcos was there. We were actually, working out in this ring, and the mat wasn't really taut enough, so there was rolls in it. And I was training, and I went to take a neck breaker, and my leg got caught under the mat, and I landed right on top and shattered my fibula. That could have been it. We had to get back from Canandaigua to Buffalo. I drove on that leg. It was my right ankle, so I drove from Canandaigua back to Buffalo with a broken fibula. And then I went to the doctor 3 days later, and they were shocked that I was walking, first of all. And second, they were really, really worried because of that my bone was displaced and it was going to heal awkwardly, which it ended up doing. I've had, x-rays on that after, and there's like this little bump right where it fractured, clean breakthrough. And so, yeah, it didn't heal right. But I still deal with it. Arthritis every day. It's sore as hell. But I just live with it. And, I did that for Buffalo Championship Wrestling, just so I can suck it up and say, hey, this is how tough I am. This is, how hard I'm willing to go for you. And so I just I'm hoping that the day of the Lumber City Rumble, that they'll say, hey, DC, here's a ticket. Here's your entrant number. And I just go out there and I do what I do. Do the best I can. I'm not the best professional wrestler, I'll admit that. I'll admit that there's a lot of work that I can do. Um, I could be in the gym a lot more. But I feel like I've kind of gotten a little bitter. Actually, I've gotten a lot bitter. I'm actually not as bitter as I was before. Like there was a few years that just for context, that I left professional wrestling as a whole and I unfriended everyone. I didn't invite, I invited one person, one professional wrestler to my wedding. And so it was just one of those things where I got so bitter that I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want any acknowledgement. And I was just sick of, being wasted. I feel like that was in my 20s, early 30s. So it's just now I'm 40. Now my body's a little broken down, because of the ankle, because of the knees. Um, but I still think that I have a lot of opportunity, a lot of chances to prove myself. I really, really, really want to make it work. Turning 40 really kind of put it in perspective for me that I don't have a lot of time left, but I want to utilize whatever time I have left in professional wrestling to achieve my goals. Um, and I'll tell you what my goals are right here. One of them to win a match. Obviously that's where you start. Eventually, I want to win a championship in Buffalo Championship Wrestling. I don't really care about elsewhere. I want it in Buffalo Championship Wrestling because Buffalo Championship Wrestling is my home. It's where I've been for 23 years now. And it's just, I feel like as one of the last two pillars, Buffalo Championship Wrestling would like winning a title would be the culmination of everything that I've done, every sacrifice that I've made, you know. And it's hard for me to kind of accept where I am in wrestling right now, just because, a lot of my non-wrestling fans think it's the coolest thing ever. But a lot of my wrestling fans or friends think, why are you even bothering at this point? You're obviously not getting an opportunity. You're obviously not going to get a chance. So why are you even willing to just do these shows, work 12-hour days for whatever you get? And it's because I still hold on to that dream, that opportunity, that I'll get a chance to prove myself, to show myself that I'm more than just the nameless character in the background, that I'm not just the nameless referee that, they say my name and I get one applause or, and it's usually my wife. So that's where I'm at right now in terms of professional wrestling. Obviously, I've been putting work in, it's hard for me or hard for anyone to see it. But at one point, I was almost 400 pounds, and I was at a very low point in my life, and I've worked very, very hard to literally drop my weight in half. I still got like another 60 to go, and that's just being honest. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I'm not what an athlete looks like. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I still have work to be done, in terms of physical fitness. But I've gotten to a point now, and as you can see in the last Buffalo Championship Wrestling show, just how well I was moving. I felt great. I felt like a new person. It was like the first time ever that I felt like being able to move inside a wrestling ring really felt good. It really felt like I was really accomplishing something personally. And I feel like that was the first chance for me to see what I've done and how far I've come. And I just feel like I'm owed maybe an opportunity. And it's like, I hate saying that. I hate saying it like that because that makes it sound like I'm trying to like strong arm something. I'm trying to be difficult. And it's not. It's just that sometimes you just want to have that one chance to prove yourself. You want to be able to stick it to someone's face like Troy Buchanan, where, he's been spending 20 years saying I don't belong, that I should just quit, that I never deserved any opportunities, that I'm terrible. And so just being able to be involved in that match, I don't care what number I'm given. You can give me number one for all I care, and I'll go ahead and show that I deserve to be in the ring more than just the nameless guy in the background. I've told a lot of times, like, you're a really good referee. What's wrong with being a referee? And it's just that there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when you feel you can have or you can give more, you really want to do it. You really feel like you can do more, so you should do more. And I have no problems being a referee. I think that's the one thing that I guess people take away from what I say is that I hate being a referee and I only want to be, a professional wrestler. And that's just simply not true. I know so many people that do both and they're very good at both of them. And there's something honorable about wanting to be a referee to uphold rules and regulations and to be that voice. But you can wear multiple hats. You can have different voices. And that's what I'm looking for. And so we're towards the end of 2025. It was a pretty good year for me. I came back to Buffalo Championship Wrestling after, being sick. Um, I think I mentioned it earlier that, one of the matches that I ended up wrestling in, I needed to have my gallbladder removed. And I was sick for a very, very long time. I believe that was in November of one year, and then I didn't even have the surgery until May of the next year. So I worked two more shows after that. As a referee, I didn't wrestle both of those shows. But yeah, like that's just what I do. Um, and I just feel like putting all that sacrifice in, putting all of that in, working bad ankle, bad knees, needing my gallbladder out. Um, it's just the level of sacrifice that I've put in. The output just hasn't been what I expected. And you can call me bitter. You can call me, a crybaby. You can call me whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that I've worked hard to achieve something in professional wrestling, more than just being the nameless referee, more than just being the face in the background that nobody knows who it is, who cares. And I just want my chance to prove that I can be more. And I think the Lumber City Rumble is the prime opportunity. The match is all about opportunity and who can take advantage of it. And so, yeah, I just want that opportunity to be able to prove myself, be able to shine, and hope for the best. Think that based on what number I may get, if I get one, the opportunity and the chances are better, and that's all I want. So let's move away from Buffalo Championship Wrestling. Let's move away from all that. Um, I'll update you guys next week after the show whether I was given the opportunity or not. But at 40, the opportunities are getting, it's getting less and less likely I'm going to get an opportunity. So I got to take advantage of any opportunity I can get when I can. Um, I've even thought about, talking to some people about doing a tag team. Maybe me by myself as a singles wrestler is not the way to go. Maybe I need someone who can teach me, talk to me, show me like along the way. Because I have it all up here. That's not the problem. I have it all up here. There's a lot of wrestlers backstage who will come to me and ask me about certain things because I know it. It's just, I know it here, but I need the opportunities, I need the chances to be able to go into the ring and show that knowledge. So maybe a singles wrestler isn't where I need to be. Maybe it's a tag team. Maybe I'll talk to some people backstage and see what goes. Maybe I'll text a couple people, see if they have some chances to be in Buffalo Championship Wrestling, and we'll see what goes from there. So I guess in some way, like the opportunity will have to arise um, if I do it myself. And so maybe that's the way to go. I'm hoping I don't have to do that. I'm hoping that I can get the chance without having to, I guess, you know, do it on my own. There's terms for it, but I'm not going to bother with that, you know. So let's get away from that because I can literally ramble on about that for an entire hour. And it'll sound bitter, it'll sound sour grapes, and I really don't want to go that route. At least not yet. Maybe down the road. So I want to talk about WWE and its year 2025. I don't want to say it's been a bad year, but it really has been more of an uninspired year. And I think I know why. And this, I don't know if people have talked about it. I think people have focused on ticket prices. Um, their own opinions on the booking. I think that there is an actual reason why WWE is the way it is in 2025. I remember when TKO first took over, they were talking about giving it a more sports feel. And I think what they're doing is kind of taking away from kind of the UFC way of booking, where you just book two random people in a match. There's a winner, there's a loser. I almost feel like they're doing it like that, where they're trying to give you kind of like a basic storyline, but they're trying to give these wrestlers opportunities to just have. And see, I know they say they Triple H said that they don't perform matches to have the best match, but to tell the best story. But I don't think that's true. I think they're booking matches for the wrestlers, maybe not to have a 5-star Meltzer match, but to have a good match, a good wrestling match. It's all about, and it's again, it's about the theme that I gave with Buffalo Championship Wrestling. It's all about the opportunity. You are wrestling this person on Raw. This is your chance to really show yourself. It's a showcase. And the people who are doing well are obviously getting more opportunities. Take a look at Raquel Rodriguez. Ever since she like had that meeting with Kevin Nash and she started doing the big mommy cool type thing, she's been given unlimited opportunities. She's on TV every week. She's involved in the women's title scene, the tag title scene. That's what I think WWE is doing. They're kind of using this UFC model and then trying to integrate some semblance of a story with it, but it's not necessarily it's not that it's not good, but it's so basic and uninspired. And that's why I said the year of 2025 is just uninspired. And I think what shot them in the foot was the John Cena Cody Rhodes stuff at WrestleMania. I think at that point, I think they were really soured on doing some type of story because it was so ill received, and rightfully so. It made no sense, and it was shotgun booking, hot shot booking, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I just don't think that they handled it well. And I think since then, they've been really just focusing on having two people in a match, and there's the winner, there's the loser. You know, they may do like multiple matches over a month, like Penta and Dom and Rusev and Sheamus, where it's like that 50-50 back and forth. One wins, one loses, the other wins, the other loses, and then they have a blow off match. It's very simple, it's very basic. Um, it's very different from, say, the Bloodline, when the Bloodline had so many depths and layers, and then Cody finishing the story with all the depths and layers. I think people really want that more, but they don't know how to express that in a positive way. I think they immediately go to a negativity and a negative space where they just say, "Oh, the booking's terrible. Oh, this is terrible. Triple H needs to go. Triple H needs to do this. He needs to do that." They don't really give any ideas. And when I was a manager at work, one of the things that I would always do is answer a question with a question. And you might think that's stupid. You might think that's like not helpful, but really it is helpful because it allows you to stop, think, come up with your own idea. It could be a great idea, it could be a terrible idea, but at least got you thinking instead of just trying to get the answer. I think that's what a lot of fans are doing is instead of like thinking about it, they're just going, "This is wrong. I don't like it. He needs to do better. He needs to just give us what the answer is." And when you just complain and just, feed off this negativity without offering any type of solution or any type of idea on your own, that's where you start getting into that sour grapes territory. That's where you start getting into that negativity territory. And you're just not going to be heard. You're just going to be called out for being either an AEW fan or, you know, you're being too negative. You're being, a hater. I've seen that term a lot lately. And I don't think it's true, but I think the fans online can handle it better, can provide better information, better solutions versus just saying things suck. So let's talk about, I already talked about the WrestleMania thing. That was horrible. I talked about it in other videos. Um, Really, I haven't done a WWE video since Money in the Bank. And, I just want to talk about a couple things, a couple highlights that I remember. I remember CM Punk and Gunther being very good. That was a great match. Talk about not wanting to have great matches. They went out there and tried to have a great match, and it worked because I think a lot of people liked it. I certainly liked it. Um, it's been difficult to really. I think the problem too is that they're since they're so uninspired, their shows feel like a chore to sit through. Not only that, but the amount of recaps that they do in their shows, it's too much. I love a good like music video. I like a good showcase of talent. I like recaps of feuds when there's about to be a blow off. But every single time they're doing a review of SmackDown, they're doing a review of something else, they're doing a video package on something else, and it's just like over and over and over again. You can't just keep doing video packages. And so that's hurting their product because their shows are less about like the matches again and more about just video recaps. It's like they're almost employing the old school type of don't give away your best match on free TV, but at the same time, they're not using like enhancement talent. They're not having these 2 or 3 minute matches where you get to showcase your talent over someone else. I don't know what WWE's aversion is against using local talent. I don't know why they just won't do it. Like it's a perfect opportunity to see who may be able to make the cut. Even if you utilize the ID talent, like why not? Give them a chance on the main stage in front of 10, 15, 20,000 people. See how they handle that pressure. I think they could be doing more of that instead of video packages. The video packages are just, it's overwhelming. And you want your fans to pay thousands of dollars to sit through hour of recaps, and it's not productive. Um, I don't remember if it was the last show or maybe 2 weeks ago, but they had one match in the first hour of TV, and they had three recaps literally right in the row. And their commercial placement on Netflix is absolutely horrendous. There was a match, and I don't remember which one it was, but there was a match. It had 2 minutes at the start, 3 minutes of commercial, and then a 2 minute go home. And it was just brutal. And I know it was a women's match. I know that much, but I can't remember which one it was. And I think that also is a testament because I don't even remember what things go. I remember the moments, but I don't remember like who was involved or anything like that. And I think that's the other issue with WWE is they're booking for the moments. They're not really booking for long matches, long drawn out storylines. They're booking and writing TV and like laying out their matches so you have that short moment that you can post on, X or Facebook or Instagram, or TikTok. I get that we live in more of that TikTok society where things over 3 minutes are not easily digestible by like people. But at the same time, you can still do both. Like they're not mutually exclusive. You can build out storylines with depth. You can do the recaps in 3 minutes on your TikTok, on your X, on your Instagram. You don't have to put the recaps in the shows. You should be doing the recaps on the outside of shows to get people to want to watch the shows. And I think that's where the disconnect is they're booking these matches, they're laying out these matches where it's like the 2 minutes, there's a moment in that 2 minutes, then there's a 3 minute commercial, and then they try to do the finish to make it kind of memorable or like a moment out of the blue or something like that. And then that's it. The main events get a little more depth and context to them, but even still, like it's not what it was, when the Paul Levesque era started. Which, by the way, have you noticed they don't even mention that anymore? They were so gung ho and involved in saying that, and that's why I'm curious what Triple H's role really is at this point, because they've stopped saying all that. You know, obviously he's getting a lot of time because he's involved in a lot of the stories himself, you know. And I'm not against it, although I will say the Hall of Fame stuff building in. Oh man, like I didn't I don't hate the fact that he put himself over a lot during that time, but what I didn't appreciate was he didn't put over any of the other Hall of Famers. You could have did a video package of every single person there, but yet they didn't. They just did a video package for Triple H. And at one point it was just the same package over and over and over again. And because they announced him so early, it was almost 3 months full of just the Triple H Hall of Fame video packages. And I'm honestly shocked that they haven't started doing that with Stephanie even earlier. But I guarantee you by Rumble time, we're going to start seeing video package after video package after video package of Stephanie, which again, I'm not against, but at least showcase your other people as well. At least give them the shine on TV so that way going into the Hall of Fame, they're actually like getting a response because a lot of them may not be remembered. If you're talking people in the early 80s, mid 80s, a lot of the people like my age probably don't watch that much anymore. But if you put them over, maybe their children are watching, and they'll start talking, hey, do you remember so and so? I don't know who else is going to go into the next Hall of Fame. I'm assuming probably about January or February, when they start actually, talking about other people, I'll do a video on it. But for now, it is what that is. Um, so yeah, I think just a lot of WWE is just kind of throwing matches together, seeing who works well together, seeing who stands out, and then you slowly start moving them up. It's old school in a way, but their execution is flawed. I think they're trying to hybrid, a UFC style of booking matches, of creating matches together, while trying to also do kind of storylines, but not really layered storylines, just the basic you won, you lost, back and forth. The occasional blood feud. I mean, I don't know how much longer they can do Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Even the Drew McIntyre CM Punk had a blow off, it was getting long in the tooth. And I think that's where the Seth and CM Punk is going. I hate to say, luckily he got hurt because I don't wish injuries on anybody. But as Jim Cornette used to say, how can you miss me if I'm never gone? I think some time away for Seth, especially because there was that long stretch where he had the bad knee and the bad back. And, he kept fighting through it, which, is great. And I said that about myself, pushing it through, pushing through all the pain and injuries. But at the same time, you got to know when it's time to take a break. And I don't think he knows that himself. So unfortunately, a big injury like this, like kind of puts it in perspective that he needed take some time away. How they handled that, I did not enjoy. I think they could have built off it more instead of it just kind of being a hot shot. He got injured, he has to go away. The vision turns on him. We knew the vision was going to turn on him eventually. We knew Braun was going to be the guy. I just think they could have did it a little differently. And the one thing that I don't understand about WWE is when someone's hurt, why don't you have them come in like maybe midway through? Why don't you do video package? They just suddenly stop existing. Like I feel like they could have built this up slowly to where Seth finally took time off, but they just chose not to, and I think that just reinforced the fact that they're not really trying to build storylines; they're trying to build moments. So if I had to really give a review on WWE for 2025, it would be uninspired and built for moments. So that's my review of WWE. Next week, I'm going to do AEW. I don't know if I'm going to do TNA or not. I don't really follow them enough. Like TNA and NXT. Like I watched Turning Point last night, and mm-mm. So it really made me think like, do I really want to do a review on them or not? Because then I would have to do a review of NXT. And to be honest, I don't really watch either enough to really give myself a good judgment. I watch like the major TNA shows. And that was really about it. I don't watch any NXT, so it'll be difficult for me to talk about that. But I'm definitely going to do an AEW one, either next week or sometime soon. At this point, it's hard for me to give like a specific, like, am I to do a video weekly? Am I to do a video monthly? I just know I'm going to get the AEW review one out before the end of the year. So with that, if you're in the Buffalo, New York area, come hang out with me next Sunday, Lumber City Rumble. If not, I'll talk to you guys when I do my AEW review. So with that said, that's all there is. There isn't any more. Have fun.